Central American migrants say deal doesn't dash asylum hopes. Tijuana, Mexico. At the small migrant Juventud 2000 shelter near the border, a Honduran expressed disappointment Sunday over the agreement between Mexico and the United States to more aggressively to curtail migration from Central America. But Edwin Sabilon Orellana of Honduras said he and his family will stick with their effort to seek asylum in the U.S. Sabilon said some migrants might decide that waiting in Mexico for the lengthy processing of asylum requests isn't worth it, but he said he cannot take his family back to their home near San Pedro Sula, a crime-ridden metropolis that is Honduras' second biggest city. That all changed in April when one of the street gangs plaguing Honduras and other Central American countries gave him a deadline of 5 days to begin paying a monthly extortion fee of about $120, Sabilon said. He said the gangster, 2 days before the deadline, Sabilon slipped away in the middle of the night with his wife and 8-year-old daughter and left Honduras. It took them about the mechanism that allows the U.S. to send migrants seeking asylum back to Mexico to await resolution of their cases has been running in Tijuana since January. One part of Friday. As of last week, about 10,000 asylum seekers had been returned to Mexico, according to Mexican officials. So far Mexico has offered opportunities for Central American migrants like Sabilon to legalize their status so they can work while waiting or if they decide to stay in Mexico. But he is not Most Mexicans are good people, he said, but some curse migrants in the street. On Saturday, Sabilon is at least in the fortunate position of having his U.S. court date just a couple weeks away. Nearby, at one of the city's principal crossings to the U.S., dozens of migrants, mostly Haitians, waited in line for a number that would determine when they could cross to the U.S. to request asylum. On Sunday, back at the Juventud 2000 shelter, Luis Torres and other parents killed time watching over the dozens of kids playing in the cramped space between tightly packed tents. The shelter, Torres, 40, said that he and his 12-year-old son entered Texas from Reynosa, Mexico, last month. U.S. authorities then flew them to San Diego where they were detained for 2 weeks, he said. Torres was confused about the status of his case, because he wasn't sure whether he had requested asylum by signing documents that agents put in front of him without explaining. In any case, Torres, a carpenter, left because his neighborhood in Honduras capital, Tegucigalpa, is dangerous and work is hard to come by. He sent his other. Torres had heard talk of the U.S.-Mexico agreement, which includes Mexico sending thousands of National Guard troops to target illegal immigration at its southern border. He said it would be
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.